just in from the coast, right? Is with Growing Generations, CEO of Growing Generations, a surrogacy agency in California and Los Angeles that has been at the table here. They've made that red-eye 3,000-mile flight every single year to be a part of this program. Many of you are familiar with Growing Generations and their literature and website. Stuart has a particularly personal spin on the issue this year, which perhaps I'll share with you. He is going to talk about the emotional, psychological, social aspects of this process, also a huge variable and a really important variable for you to consider. So thank you so much, Stuart, for making that trip.
And we actually have an office here in New York and in Boston, so I'm here once a month. So this was a little bit difficult because I had my adopted mom's 89th birthday last night, so I couldn't come in yesterday. But we offer free consults here, so you can come and see us. I'm going to be talking about the psychological aspects, and it was interesting as John was talking because I think that each family has to really navigate psychologically how they're going to address all types of issues, not just during the surrogacy process and egg donor selection, but also after, and how you're going to disclose to your children, and when, and what is that relationship going to be like with the surrogate. But I want to start by really talking about the process while you're going through it. And so I want to talk about partnerships, anxiety, and control. And how you deal with those three issues is going to be amplified about 1,000% during this process. With the partnerships, you're going to have so many human beings working on your case. You're going to have maybe your agency, the surrogate, the egg donor, the doctors, the attorney, the OB, the nurses in the RE's office, the nurses at the hospital. And what I like to tell people is that all of us are human beings and we're all flawed. And if you expect that you're going to go through this process with these partnerships and there aren't going to be mistakes, this isn't the process for you. This is a process of human beings. Your surrogate may have a bad day. You may have a bad day. So you really have to look at how you deal with teamwork and partnerships. Anxiety is a huge issue. You are trusting the most important thing in your life to another human being who doesn't live in your home, who you really don't know that well in the beginning. It's a little bit like a blind date. You know, you read some information about each other, and she doesn't either. You meet, it's awkward, you've got sweaty palms, you're scared to death, and then you jump in and start working together. So you have to really look at how you all deal with anxiety. And you want to talk about that in the beginning. I think one important factor that I don't believe we've addressed yet is to have a psychologist involved throughout your process. I know you guys do. Yeah, it's pretty standard of all agencies. The psychologist is there for two reasons. One, to provide support, but two, to give you another added layer of legal protection if there were to be a dispute that, you know, could come up. And some courts want to see that a psychologist was involved. But more than anything, it's to help navigate through some of those bumps in the waters. What can those be? Well, you don't get pregnant. That can be very trying. The surrogate is going through a huge amount of effort, taking shots, taking time off work, being away from her family. You are putting all your hopes and dreams each time those eggs come out and you see how many fertilized and they go in and it doesn't work. So that can be anxiety producing. In a situation where you get pregnant with triplets or quads and you want to reduce, that creates anxiety. So all of these things can really be compounded if you don't have a psychologist to help you navigate through. I encourage couples. My partner and I are now 16 weeks pregnant with our surrogate and egg donor, and it's amazing. We didn't meet our egg donor. We actually saw the video and we felt that was enough. But we put in our contract that our child could have the identifying information at the age of 18, which is pretty common too if you don't want to go the whole route and meet her, do something in between. But we're now 16 weeks pregnant and it's been great. But I think one reason it's been really, really positive is that we're not control freaks. We understand that this is just life and what's going to happen is what's going to happen. And if you're working with a reputable agency or with a reputable attorney and you've got a great clinic and you like your surrogate and trust her, you have to let her be the one to really call a lot of the shots once she's pregnant. She's done this before. She understands it. I had a client call last week just crazed that his surrogate, who was pregnant, was 12 weeks along, and she didn't have an OB appointment until 14 weeks. That's not a big deal. She's just gotten through with the IVF clinic. The last appointment was at 12 weeks. He was putting all this added pressure when there wasn't a need for it. So you really have to look, again, at how you look at partnership, how you deal with anxiety, and what your control issues are like. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of those key things that can occur, like fetal reduction. This is a process that, again, your psychologist will be involved with, but one thing that I think is very important when dealing with your surrogate is that you understand that this is her body, and even though your precious, babies are in there and it's very difficult for you, it's even more difficult for her. So what we do when someone is faced with an issue like an abortion because there's a fetal abnormality or a reduction, we call the surrogate and we find out what she needs in the way of support. Some of our surrogates have said, you know what, tell the guys I don't want to talk to them until after it's done, and then I don't want to talk about it. We're not going to mention it again. And one of the biggest mistakes that I think intended parents can make is trying to use the surrogate as a best friend. That may develop, and you may end up with a wonderful relationship. We just sent our surrogate to see Beyonce, so our embryo baby had its first concert, but we've maintained for now, and we love her and adore her, but we maintain a professional relationship with her. And so you want to be careful that you don't talk to the surrogate about things that really are better left for you as partners to decide together. And we've seen that happen before with reductions or abortions, where the couple has wanted the surrogate to be on their side. The surrogate may not agree morally with you. Many of our surrogates are highly religious, but they will do it because they understand it's your pregnancy. But what they don't want to have is a long conversation of you trying to convince them that you're doing the right thing. It's your family. And so that's really all I'm going to say. I think that getting a psychologist involved and really looking at how you guys relate to each other in your partnership is important. One thing I will end with is egg donor selection. I really encourage people to do it together. This is something that is really serious, and you want to sit down, and if you're looking at catalogs or online, however you're going to do this, but sit down and do it together. Because you need to hear what your partner is saying. Because it might be like you like somebody and then you email your partner and he's like, yuck, I don't like that person. But in fact, if they heard why you liked them and what was behind that thought process, it's really important because, as John said, you don't know your children yet. This is the closest thing you're going to get to, knowing some of those qualities and attributes.